appreciate any support we can get from
300 miles.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm wondering if we should call you halfway through and say maybe a bit off more than you could chew.
Well, Amanda and I are going to bring our phones with us, and we're going to be doing some updates along the way. We'll put some new pictures on there as we're riding, and we'll put some. I'm sure we'll put some heartfelt comments in there about how we're feeling each day. So
great. I appreciate your time today.
Thank you,
Jason Frank and Amanda Lideker, Grand Rapids Police and the Walker City Police on Clearly Community.
Clearly Community is a public affairs program of Clear Channel Media and Entertainment. Clearly Community is brought to you by World Market. Don't miss the store relocation blowout sale at World Market. Their Kentwood store is moving, and that means you save up to 50% store-wide. Hurry into World Market on 28th Street in Kentwood across from Woodland Mall. Certain restrictions apply. See store for details. Listen again next week at this time for another segment of Clearly Community right here on your favorite Clear Channel Media and Entertainment radio station.
iHeartRadio gives you 1,500 live radio stations from across the country. A toaster makes toast. iHeartRadio has the Perfect For feature. Tunes perfect for any mood. A toaster just makes toast. iHeartRadio has 15 million songs to create your own music station, and it's free. A toaster? Toast. iHeartRadio. Better than a toaster, unless you want toast. Get it at iHeartRadio.com. Now available for Sprint phone in the Sprint Zone Entertain Me section.
News Radio, I'm Karen McHugh. Preparations are done. The papal conclave begins on Tuesday, and when it's over, the Roman Catholic Church will have a new leader.
Vatican workers attach the chimney stack to the Sistine Chapel. From there, white or black smoke will be seen for the first time Tuesday evening around 7 p.m. Rome time after the cardinal electors cast their first ballots. Black smoke means no pope. White smoke signals a new pope.
Fox's Lauren Green in Rome. Vatican watchers believe a new pope could be in place by next Sunday. It's like being shut out of your own home. That's how one Washington, D.C. tourist feels about the White House canceling tours and blaming it on sequester cuts.
This is the United States of America people's White House, and we should be able to do tours through them, especially the young people, to teach them about the history of this White House and our country.
Meanwhile, Speaker of the House John Boehner reminds everyone that the Capitol's still open to visitors. Fox News, we report, you decide.
Your dadgum government, you sorry so-and-sos. You got your damn hands in every pocket of my clothes. Well, you dadgum government. Oh, don't you know? Oh, don't you love them sometimes? Hey, boy.
Good morning, Muskegon. This is Eye on Muskegon, and I'm Jim Riley, your host for this community conversation. And once again, we are here in Muskegon's Clear Channel studios with my friend and engineer, that legendary, the double O, Oscar Osbo. And back again, helping us out, businessman, author, man about town, Mike Hewitt. Good morning, Mike. Good morning, Oscar.
Good morning.
Good morning, Jim. Jim, I got to tell you, before you get going, it's kind of exciting for me. You've been a guest on my show a number of times, but I've not yet, until this morning, been a guest on your show.
No, yeah, you were. Just a couple weeks ago, you were a guest on my show.
You were on mine. I wasn't on yours.
Well, that's why we have EyeOnMuskegon.com, folks. That's where we can find that proof of whether we have been on each other's shows. But it's great to have you back, or in your case, given that there's been clearly a little stroke involved for your first time. But nonetheless, we are...
Yeah, because he has been, because he was on your show, and then he stayed here and did his show with you.
Yes, but that's okay.
Okay.
That's all right. Maybe you viewed yourself as a guest, and in fact, now you're a co-host.
Wait, you know what? You're right. I think Oscar, he is right, because he was... Yep, you're absolutely right.
Of course he's right. But that's the way we wanted it to be. Okay, hey, look.
I'm going to mark that down as your time to be correct today.
I'm going to figure out a way to splice that little piece of wisdom, and we'll play that at every show in the future. Hey, you've always got, Mike, great quotes at the beginning of your show, and I'll give one that I have given before, but I do think it's so important because so many folks are just not getting it. One of the greatest leaders, greatest statesmen of our time, Winston Churchill said, quote, "Socialism is a philosophy of failure, the creed of ignorance, and the gospel of envy. Its inherent value is the equal sharing of misery." And he said that in the last century. I think that people today just do not believe things will get too bad. And matter of fact, if you go to Europe, if you read much about Europe, you will find that there are millions and millions and millions of people who, on one hand, are unemployed. What Italy's unemployment rate is, Italy and Spain in the mid-20s, 25% unemployment, folks. That's higher than it was in this country during the Depression. And yet, they continue to re-elect their same leaders. They, for some reason, They do not buy what Winston Churchill said. They somehow think that there is a money tree out there that they can squeeze those evil wealthy. And unfortunately, as we here in Muskegon have found, as we look around at the empty buildings and we look in our state and the Flints and the Benton Harbors and the Detroits and the Saginaw's and others, that at some point you do run out of other people's money. And then the result of that is pretty awful. You have schools closing, and you have jobs, of course, disappearing. And anyway, on that happy note, we're going to try to, what we're going to try to do here is, always is bring to you what's been going on, what's maybe coming down the pike, what's happened in the past, to get you involved so that you will pick up the phone and you will contact your elected officials. Maybe you'll make a phone call. Maybe you'll visit their office. Maybe you'll invite a friend instead of getting together for that weekly card game. Maybe you'll get 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 friends and maybe go to a city council meeting, go to a county meeting, a planning commission meeting, a school board meeting. So that's our ultimate goal here, is to get citizens involved in affecting some kind of change that's real, rather than just sitting around like we do at Carmen's Cafe every Thursday morning, and I do with other folks, by the way. Carmen's at Tuesdays and Thursdays at 2:00, and just complaining. Complaining will not get you to where you want to go unless you complain to the right people. And complaining to me won't do it.
They should give you at least a free hamburger, I would think, as much as you talk about Carmen's. But,
yeah,
that's just my view.
I'm all for that. But that's another issue.
And since I'm kind of co-hosting, I want my free hamburger also.
Yeah, right.
Well, how about instead of a free hamburger, let me just say how wonderfully we were treated when Honey Bunch and I went to your store, Renegade River in Spring Lake, and purchased a great little Ruger 380. We got good education and great service, and I would strongly recommend, in particular these days, as your business is really under siege from the forces of evil, those folks who do want to make sure that only the lawbreakers have guns, that you go visit Renegade River. You do have guns there, which is great, and if you want to buy guns and ammo, you got it.
You betcha. I got to tell you, it's kind of funny, too.
What would you rather have, that or a hamburger?
I'm sticking with the guns and the ammo so I can defend my hamburger.
Ad, that little free ad we gave you. There we go.
I appreciated that. Hey, before you move away from Winston Churchill, though, I got to share a real brief, short story with you. Someone sent me a typical picture on Facebook here the other day, and I'm originally from Pontiac, Michigan. My brother-in-law was a police officer in Pontiac, and so all my family is from that general area. At least for the last century. And the picture I got sent was downtown Pontiac somewhere in the middle of the 1930s. And the irony to the picture is that it's an overview. It's probably taken out the second or third story of one of the buildings, and it looks down Saginaw Street, which is the main street in downtown Pontiac. And remember, when we're talking about the middle of the Depression. And everyone's walking around, and there's a lady walking her dog across the street. You can see that there's hustle and bustle. Downtown Pontiac is alive. And then I Google downtown Pontiac and look at a recent picture from Google. And the middle of the Depression of the 1930s looked hustle, bustle, ready to go, activity, growth. And now it looks like one of those sci-fis after the nuclear bomb went off. It's devastation. It's dead. And in fact, back then they had a 300-person police department, and now they've had to give up their police department and a lot of other services. So it sounds like Winston Churchill was right on the button.
Is the Silver Dome even active anymore?
It sits there. You want to buy it?
Actually, the roof just collapsed. And it's funny.
That's right.
A friend of mine, a very good friend of mine, was the chief engineer in building the Silver Dome. And actually, it was the only public stadium that ever came in under budget and on time. Yeah. But one thing, Mike, I think you missed. During the Depression, there were millions and billions and trillions, depending on how you would measure it, of government money keeping Pontiac alive. And we know that because the president's just said it, that every penny that's being spent, certainly today and recently, has been wisely spent. And so Pontiac must not be getting any federal money, must not have been getting any federal money, as opposed to it was getting tons of it back in the 30s, right? Or it couldn't possibly be in the mess it's in. It just needs more money, right?
It kind of reminds me when you take us down that path of the successful city that was Detroit. When up until about 1960, the city had the highest per capita income in the United States.
66. I lived in the suburbs of Detroit. I lived in Birmingham, right next to Pontiac. And in 1966, you could get on a bus in Birmingham or Pontiac, because they went all the way out right down Woodward. And if you were 12 years old, you could go with your 12-year-old friend, and you could hop on that bus, and you could go right down to Grand Circus Park, right in the center of Detroit City. And that was a safe city. It was a thriving, bustling city. And it was the summer of '67 when the Doors had Light My Fire, and when there was who knows what the justification was, but there were riots by people in Detroit, and that city died that summer. But 1966, it was thriving, bustling, a tremendous city.
I remember that time too. I was sitting with my dad on the front porch, listening to his radio when the riots were going on. And actually, I come from Mount Clemens, so we're all from the east side here. So there you go.
I got to tell you, I don't know that I agree with you, Jim, because the city of Detroit had riots in the 19-teens. It had riots again in 1943. In fact, in the 43 riots, they had to bring in the Texas National Guard to keep peace because FDR did not want to draw attention, or the
That's
national.
Interesting.
Yeah, they didn't want to draw national attention away from the war effort. So what they did is they brought in the Texas National Guard. Don't tell the media, to keep the city squelched from not burning, and that allowed America's war effort and its eyes to stay on the ball, if you will. But my point in bringing it up is that it lived through all that. What it did not live through was Johnson's war on poverty.
Oh, it was the extra money.
When Johnson came up with, I can't remember the name of it, was a Premier City, or it was some focus on bringing urban America back to life, keeping in mind here that Detroit was alive at the time. It was the highest per capita in America. So he creates this colossal federal program that's designed to infuse life into that which was already alive, and it killed
you mean
it.
The Great Society program?
Yeah.
Yeah, that wasn't just aimed at Detroit. That was aimed at all. Remember, that summer of '67, there were riots all over. There were in Newark and in Watts and all over the country. Well, again, and of course, my questions to you were meant to be facetious. The facts are that during a time when there wasn't federal intrusion, when there wasn't federal largesse, when there wasn't the warm, loving hug of free federal money, at the midst of the worst times, we are told that Pontiac and most American major cities were maybe not perfect, but certainly they were thriving metropolises. And since we have poured literally trillions of dollars into our cities, look at what has happened. And the only response that we get from those people who are running the cities, who are supporting the continuation of this, is we can fix it if you just give us a little more money. That's the only answer. They don't say we're going to do it better. They don't say we're going to do it any differently. They just promise us that if you give us more money, we'll fix it. And of course, it's gone straight down since '66.
It has, but imagine a culture in a land that thinks of itself as the home of the brave and the free, when you've got, on a state level, hundreds of people in Lansing and in every little burg across the state looking for ways to get their name up in lights by coming up with some sponsored piece of legislative act that either is going to cost you more money or less, or impact your liberty. That the culture that we have in our capitals is that you're not a successful legislator unless you're putting forward legislation. And what do we, I mean, the number of laws and restrictions and regulations, it comes from all of us, not just Democrat or Republican. It's the culture of our political circle that again, to become successful, they have to put forward legislation.
When we come back, let's address that, because clearly that's a problem. And we're going to take a break. We'll be right back.
Have you ever thought about a career in broadcasting or a media-related field? Here's your chance to get ahead and meet with local radio and television stations on Wednesday, March 13th, 1 p.m. to 3:30 p.m. at the Lansing Center in downtown Lansing during the Michigan Broadcast Media Career Fair. Registration to the career fair is free. Broadcasters in Michigan are looking for highly motivated individuals to work in this very exciting industry. Visit MichiganBroadcastCareers.com for information. Sponsored by the Michigan Association of Broadcasters Foundation and Clear Channel Media and Entertainment.
If your New Year's resolution is too hard, maybe try a new New Year's resolution, like saving money with Esurance. Born online, they were built to save people money on car insurance. So happy new year. Esurance, insurance for the modern world. Now backed by Allstate. Click or call.
Not available in all states. Savings may vary.
Wow, this place is so adorable. I can't believe we haven't stopped in sooner.
Yeah, it's really cute.
Betsy, look at these sweaters. 2 for $75, and they look amazing on our girls.
Maybe they would. I'm not sure if it's the right size.
Oh, come on. You know they're perfect. What's wrong?
Suzanne, I have no business being in the store. I should not be shopping. Things are really tight right now.
Tight? Are you and Michael having trouble?
We're behind on our mortgage, and Michael is really worried.
Listen, Bill and I had the same problem a few months ago, and we got some really great counseling, and it was free. I'm going to email you the information as soon as we get home.
Suzanne, you're the best.
If you even think you may be in danger of foreclosure, call the National Foundation for Credit Counseling. Certified housing counselors can help you work through your problems, and the service is free. Call the NFCC at 866-687-6322 or visit mortgagehelpnow.org. That's mortgagehelpnow.org. This has been a public service from the NFCC.
The full moon lights the silver rails winding around dark mountains and over steep gorges of jagged rock and one freezing cold rushing black mountain river. I wish there was enough time to describe all of the funny twists and turns that led up to now, but there isn't enough time because there's a ticking clock and the 2 passengers we care most about don't know anything about it. To see what happens next, visit read.gov to read The Exquisite Corpse, a riveting adventure pieced together by John Sheska, Shannon Hale, Daniel Handler, and other popular authors. Explore new worlds. Read. Brought to you by the Library of Congress and the Ad Council.
24,000 children die every day from preventable causes. My name is Liam Neeson, and I believe that number should be 0. Believe in 0.
Join the effort. Visit
The Talk of Muskegon. News Talk 1090. WKBZ.
Well, you dadgum government, you sorry so-and-sos. You got.
And we are back at EyeOnMuskegon. Co-host Mike Hewitt. Your lovable little closet conservative Jim Riley. And, of course, the legendary Oscar running the board. Hey, Mike, you mentioned something which I absolutely agree with 100%, which is that there is this view, which is not secret, and the view is that elected officials, their job is to spend money, and if they're really good at spending, then they get their name on some kind of bridge or building or airport or you name it. Why, if that culture is so well known, why have we been unable in any way to address that?
Because I think we're all trying to fix the wrong end of the problem, and it's the populist politics I'm always railing against. Big groups of people or small groups, whatever, Facebook and the internet and here on talk radio, everyone's bashing on the political class, the leaders, the elected officials. These politicians are rotten, terrible people, when the reality of it is that they're doing these things because it gets them reelected, which tells you that the problem doesn't lie with them. It lies with the people electing them, the electorate. So if you get a guy like Ted Kennedy, God rest his soul, but the man murdered somebody, and they elected him for an additional 30 years over and over and over again, that's not an ideological statement I'm making. It's a fact. He sat there on the side of the river and had a cigarette after he killed somebody. And so you got to say to yourself, wait a minute, why does the electorate, again, this is not a party statement because both sides do it, why are we, the electorate, continuously over and over and over again willing to do the same thing?
Okay, is that just a rhetorical statement, or do you have an answer?
Yeah, I have an answer. I think it's education. I think that you've had, from the Civil War forward, you've had an erosion decade after decade. It can be measured. You can write it on a paper as a math statement and not an ideological statement. That every decade that's went by, the educational level has went backwards a little bit. So a person who graduated the 8th grade in 1920 had a vastly superior education than the average person graduating with honors from high school nowadays. And that, to me, is a crisis.
Okay, so how do you fix that then? What you're saying is we can't fix the politicians because our education system is broken. So we're not going to bother trying to fix the politicians then, so we have to then fix the education. What's your answer in terms of fixing the education system?
Let's think about it for a minute. Look who we've charged with our education. We sit around, all of us, both left and right, and we talk about how bad our politicians are in Lansing or in Washington or wherever our state capitals are, and then we've surrendered our children's education to these people. So now we do have school districts which are, in theory anyway, citizen run. Every school, you talk about the politicians having coffee hours and being available, but the school districts have 1 or 2 meetings every single month. Every adult actually every person in the state can attend however many school district meetings they'd like to. There you go. And so when I've been to the probably 24 school board meetings over the years, having raised 4 daughters, I got to attend a lot. Having run for office, I also attended a few of them. And what I typically found, not every time, but typically found by far and large, was empty rooms with the electorate not there. So you walk in, you got the entire school board there, picture this, and you got all the chairs that are set up for the missing element that's necessary to direct our school system, and that's the parents. You may have two or three parents there who are mad because Johnny or Sally was mistreated, but by far and large, the room is empty. Other than the school board, hang on, and of the school board, you still say, okay, what are they deciding on? Are they deciding on curriculum? Are they talking about whether the flag and the pledge? What are they talking about? Whether we should be teaching history or math? Are they trying to get us back to reading, writing, and arithmetic and filling this hole that they call the rounded education, that I call a donut with missing education in the middle? Are they talking about that? And the answer is no. They're talking about where to invest the cafeteria money, what to do with the booster funds.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I'm still looking for what we can do to make it better, because let me recount. The legislators aren't accountable to us because we have a bad education system. We have a system that does allow citizen input, but no one's involved in that. So how do we fix the education system if we want to make it different? Maybe not better, but at least different.
We've placed in charge of our educational structure the do-gooders, the union goons, respectfully.
Okay. Respectfully, Mr. Union Goon.
I don't know how else to say it. I don't know how else to say it, Jim. That's what they are. When they've placed benefits and income.
So how do we fix it?
Ahead of generations of education, you got to call them something.
I know we're sitting around, and I know it's a Sunday morning, and we're drinking coffee. But how do we fix it? I'd like to move from complaining, which you and I are larded with ideas and complaints. But what do we do to make it better, rather than a listing of what's wrong?
Every year, I'm a little more larded. No matter what I do with my diet, I just keep getting bigger. Is that what you mean?
No, I don't mean that. I mean your mind is so fertile; it is so thick and with ideas and concepts.
I got to tell you,
it's a supreme compliment. But we need to change. To change from the complaint side of your fertile mind to the innovative, creative, problem-solving side of your mind.
I think we need to get rid of a national educational, the Department of Education.
Yes.
That needs to be gone.
How do we do that?
We vote in politicians who will commit to getting rid of it.
Then how do we do that? We're getting circular here, because one of the reasons we can't vote in decent politicians is we got a bad education system.
No matter what we do, it's going to come back with the question of how do we get the electorate involved. And one of the ways we're going to do that is if you go back to the education meeting, the local school board, when they spent an hour and a half talking about what to do with the booster money, and whatever parents that they did get to show up, their eyes glaze over with boredom and they get up and leave. If those school boards would engage in a real conversation about how to draw back control from Lansing and Washington, then you'd start to see parents go, wow, they're having a meaningful conversation last week. You should go. And all of a sudden the crowds will start picking up. But what's happened is the school boards all get plugged into this role. Okay, I just got elected. I'm a member of the school board. Now we get to talk. What do we? And a lot of people, by the way, get those jobs with really high hopes about changing things. And when they get in there, they find that the system is screwed down pretty tight, so they're stuck with deciding.
So how do we get people interested in attending the meetings? And this is not, the school boards are just an easy choice for us.
It's a great metaphorical topic.
But how do we do it? This has been a long-running complaint of mine, and I'm in search in the darkness with a failing flashlight, is how do we get people involved? And bring that up within the context that our studio here is not very far from one of the few failed school systems in the United States of America. So we don't need to provide proof that if you do things badly, bad things will happen. And yet people do not seem interested. Matter of fact, I would be willing to bet you if somebody bothered counting that attendance at school board meetings, other than special ones, that involve the closing of the school, but attendance at school board meetings, attendance at city council meetings, attendance at county commission meetings, which I can confirm, is actually down in the last 3 to 4 years than it has been in the past.
It's kind of ironic because if you look at the voting trend, voter turnout trend over the lifetime of America, and there, you can literally Google it on the internet. There's all kinds of. The Heritage Foundation has put forward 2 graphs. One shows literally voter turnout coming forward from the first election till I think it went through 2010. The last graph I saw, and it went down in plateaus. So you have and it peaked leading up to the Civil War, but from the Civil War forward, it's continued to each election go down. And the irony to that...
Wait, now. Yeah. That's just clearly not what I'm saying. Voter participation has been up.
No, not true. I know it sounds true because we look at things in such small snapshots. But if you look at the history of the United States...
We had the biggest turnout in a century 4 years ago.
We had the biggest turnout in a century if you only register... If you're only doing the math on registered voters. If you're saying, let's look at eligible voters in the United States and who voted... What you're saying is not true, and the math is never presented that way. It's always about registered voters.
Where was the high point then?
The high point was right before the Civil War.
Well, okay, I'm not talking about 150 years ago or 200 years ago. I'm talking about when was the high point in the last, let's say, 60 years?
The high point was probably in President Obama's first election. That was the high point. Now we're back from that, and the irony is that in 2010, when us conservatives patted ourselves on the back for having some great successes in that election cycle, the actual election in terms of voter turnout was down. And I remember some of the party people within the Republican Party saying, Mike, don't talk about that. Well, I got to talk about it. It's important. And when I look at the United States in total, it is going down, and it continues to trend down. And it's kind of the irony to it is that the more ways we turn ourselves into a democracy and turn away from a Republican form of government, small r, a Republican form of government, the more we turn to democracy and less republic, the lower the turnout has been. You can sit and look at that voter turnout and come up with pinpoints of significant changes to our government structure and see the voter turnout responded by going down.
Okay, we're back to that list of complaints. Maybe you have come up with something and I've missed it. What is it that can be done that would make it better? Because right now all I'm hearing is it can. And if that's the case, then maybe we all ought to just sleep in on Sundays and get an extra, TV channel. What could be done?
I got to tell you, I've spent a lot of time looking at that question. I wrote a book about it. I'm writing a second book about it. So it's not that I'm not willing to put forward offers, but what I see when I look at the problem is that, and I hate to use this terminology, but America is a victim of its own success.
So we can't fix it, then. There are no answers.
Hang on, Jim. What I'm saying is that when you look at, we've changed all the meanings of words. Let me give you an example of meanings of words. I'm actually a classical liberal, but I'm considered extreme right. I'm a classical liberal. I'm a Jeffersonian. We've twisted these things and these concepts and these ideals to the point where it reminds me of Animal Farm, where all of the words have opposite meanings of what they used to.
Everybody's equal, but some of us are more equal than others.
That's exactly right. Now
I'm still looking for some answers here, though, on that same farm.
I'm getting there. When you have, when we define poor now, everybody who's poor now has a cell phone, a car, an air conditioning system, color television set, a huge long laundry list of possessions that we used to use as measures of rich. And I guess I got to tell you, when I wrote America's Final Beginning, it was because I don't believe it's going to just one day change until something significant causes people to change. Now, just debating it, we try to keep the candle lit. That's why we get up early on Sunday morning.
Okay, so if I'm reading you correctly, the only thing that will fix it is not anything that we would do on purpose, but something that will happen to us.
Did you ever read Lincoln's speech of A House Divided? We'll talk about it when we come back.
We'll be back.
The time is now. The place is Benton Chevrolet Cadillac GMC. GM preferred pricing for everyone is back for a limited time only. Plus, Benton is paying you up to $2,000 over book value for your trade. The time to buy is now, and Michigan's volume leader is the place. Shop the largest selection of new Chevrolets, Cadillacs, and GMCs. GM preferred pricing means big savings for you. Get 0% for 72 months and make no payments until late spring. Drive a new 2013 Chevy Cruze, just $89 a month. Chevy Equinox, $119. Chevy Malibu, $138, or a new Chevy Silverado 4x4. Pick your color, just $198 a month. Get ready for spring in a new Chevrolet from Benton. We'll take anything on trade and get you up to $2,000 over book value for this sale. The time to buy is now. Shop our massive 20-acre motor mall, where we guarantee the lowest prices you'll find in Michigan. Benton Chevrolet Cadillac GMC, both sides of Henry Street, Muskegon. It's where Michigan shops. Benton.
Here's the official News Talk 1090 WKBZ forecast. Periods of rain today with a high of 43. Southwest winds 20 to 30 miles an hour, diminishing to 5 to 10 miles an hour. Tonight, rain with a low near 40. Southeast winds 10 to 20. Overcast skies with rain showers at times tomorrow. A high of 42. Southwest winds 15 to 25. And a few snow showers are possible on Tuesday with a high of 34. Keeping you informed, this is News Talk 1090 WKBZ, the talk of Muskegon.
Here's another reason why online auctions are better than live auctions. You don't have to listen to that guy. Get a lot more for a lot less during the News Talk 1090 Spring Auction. More details coming Monday.
America had just gone to war when Felipe Adams volunteered.
I knew what I was signing up for. I knew the consequences. I took a bullet to the side and left me paralyzed.
For Armando de la Rosa, the Navy was a chance to serve and see the world.
I got medically discharged in 2001.
Armando and Felipe were brought together by a unique organization that serves our paralyzed veterans.
If there was no PVA, it would be a lot of confusion. Our training is to better the veteran. We help out with the auto grant, the special housing adaptation grant, education, prosthetics. Our main focus is spinal cord injury and disease, but we see anybody.
First thing he had asked me before he even asked my name was I being taken care of as a veteran? And I thought that was pretty good.
Changing lives, building futures. That's Paralyzed Veterans of America. To learn more, visit pva.org.
What did they do? What did they do to my city? I pushed Michael Yu away from the binoculars and took a look. Hey! In the streets below, traffic had stopped. Pedestrians were lying on sidewalks and curled up in doorways. There was no sign of violence, no wrecks, nothing like that. It was as if the people in New York had simply decided to stop whatever they were doing and pass out. Ice coated my stomach. A line from the prophecy rang in my ears.
And see the world in endless sleep.
Not dead. He has put the entire island of Manhattan to sleep. The invasion has started. To find out what happens next, read Percy Jackson and the Olympians by Rick Riordan. Explore new worlds and check out more cool books at your local library and visit read.gov. Brought to you by the Library of Congress and the Ad Council.
I knew I had a problem.
Eating and eating.
I felt so alone.
We understand. We're Overeaters Anonymous, and we have helped thousands of people just like you. Start living the life you deserve. Find us on the web at oa.org.
Here's another reason why online auctions are better than live auctions. You don't have to listen to that guy. Get a lot more for a lot less during the News Talk 1090 Spring Auction. More details coming Monday.
Hi, this is Brian Kilmeade, inviting you to listen to Kilmeade and Friends. I break down the biggest stories of the day in the news and tell you what I think. Plus, you get insight and perspective from my Fox friends like Steve Ducey, Gretchen Carlson, Brett Baer, Chris Wallace, Governor Mike Huckabee, Bill Hemmer, Martha McCallum, and people like Geraldo Rivera, only on Kilmeade and Friends.
Catch it weekday mornings from 9 till 11 on News Talk 1090, WKBZ, the talk of Muskegon.
24,000 children die every day from preventable causes. My name is Clay Aiken, and I believe that number should be zero. Believe in zero.
Join the effort. Visit UNICEFUSA.org.
Well, this guy was just out in front in terms, or maybe he caused it. We could debate that someday. But I got to tell you, let me just slightly change direction here if I can. In my novel, I put forward the idea.
Wait, let's give a little props to the novel. The title of the novel
is America's Final Beginning.
Okay, and I know that is available on Amazon, and it's also available on Kindle, I believe. Is it not?
Yeah, Kindle and Amazon and Borders and all of those places.
Title one more time.
America's Final Beginning.
Okay,
and you can go to americasfinalbeginning.com. Here's what I'm bringing it up for, not necessarily to sell the book, but certainly, folks, you can buy the book.
Well, I'd recommend it.
What I'm trying to get at, though, is that in the book I raised the question, and I'll raise it for you right now when you're looking for cures. I asked myself when I was writing it, what's the real resolution to what we're dealing with? And I got to tell you, what I came up with is a question. If we put to an election right now, if the next general election had a question that asked the electorate to set aside the United States Constitution and join a global socialist authority, what do you think the vote would be? Honest.
I think it would fail tremendously.
I think it would fail, but I think you'd be stunned as to how high it would be. I think it would be in the 40% range. And so when you look at America right now, and we can debate it whether it's 30% or 40% or whatever percent it is, there's one thing that's for certain. There's been professors all over America for the last 60 days talking about setting aside the Constitution. They're literally articulating what I wrote in a fiction novel 4 years ago when I was writing that section of the book. And what I'm saying to you is we've reached a point now, in my humble view, that says if we put it on a ballot, it would not win. I agree, but it would be striking how many people would